Okay, Kinder friends, we're back ready for some science today. Since we read our book Frogs, we've made our frog craft, and now we have a science experiment. And we're also going to talk about the life cycle of a frog for just a little bit, because one of your activities in your at-home learning packet was to see if you could find some tadpoles and you could watch them turn into a frog. So today we learned about one of the vocabulary words in our book was called amphibian. And remember, amphibian is a class of animals that lives the first part of their life in the water, and the second part they live on land. So that means they have two different ways they breathe. For the first part, they breathe through gills, and that's when they are a tadpole. Then, the second part of their life, they turn into a, see if I can show you, a frog. And that's when they have lungs, just like we have, and they get their oxygen out of the air, just like we do. We are not like a tadpole. We can't breathe underwater, can we? Only if we had a snorkel. But the life cycle of the frog, if you get these tadpoles, and by the way, I went and looked for some tadpoles, and I think it's just a little bit too early. Where I am, I didn't find any. And I also text one of my first grade friends that I had last year. His name is Maddox, and he is always in the creeks and always in the mud. So I knew he would be a good source. And Maddox told me he has not seen any tadpoles yet, but he did tell me if he found some, he would get some for me. So I am waiting for him to get them. But anyway, so the life cycle of a frog, the frog lays little eggs, and they always lay them in the water. In these little eggs, there is a little bitty black dot, and that little black dot develops into the tadpole. And during that tadpole phase, that's when he has gills and he lives in the water. He can't live on the land or he would die. The tadpole starts developing his hind legs, and he still has that long tail. Then he starts developing his front legs. Isn't he looking a little bit more like a frog? And he still has his tail. And then he starts getting even more, his head looks more like a frog, and he has all four of his legs, but he still has his little tail. And the last step on the life cycle of a frog is he loses his tail and he becomes a frog. And then that cycle starts all over again. Last year in our room, we had some of the eggs, and we watched them turn into some frogs. So hopefully you can catch them and you can watch them turn into frogs, and you can share it with me. Okay, the second thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about our science question and our science experiment. So we're going to find out, why don't frogs freeze? I don't know, but in this experiment you're going to learn why frogs don't freeze. All kind of animals in the winter have to find ways to hibernate and to stay warm. Some build dens, some bury underground, some have really thick fur that they grow. And frogs and turtles, they're alligators, they always bury under the mud. But how do they not freeze when it gets so cold? So in our experiment today, it's going to involve 2 days. On day 1, we're going to do the first part, and on day 2, you're going to get to observe what happened, and you're going to get to find out what makes a frog not freeze. Okay, so we need 2 plastic containers. I have 2 small plastic containers, and you have to have 2 lids. Now you can use any kind of container you want, a sour cream container, anything that your mommy or daddy has. You're going to need a glass of water. I'm just going to use a bottle of water. And you're going to need some maple syrup. So I have my little bottle of maple syrup here. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pour water in one of our containers, and then we're going to add the lid. We're not going to pour it all the way to the top, but we're going to pour it mostly full. So I've got my water in, and it says add the lid. So I'm going to go ahead and put my lid on. Okay. The next step says we're going to pour the syrup in the other container and add the lid. So I'm going to get my maple syrup and I'm going to pour it in this container. I'm going to do the same thing like the water. I'm not going to add it all the way to the top, but almost. And then I'm going to put my lid on. And the next, oh, this lid is hard to put on. The next thing I'm going to do with both of these containers is I'm going to put them in the freezer, and then I have to wait. This is going to be the hardest part of this experiment because you're going to have to wait a whole day. You're going to have to sleep, and when you wake up in the morning or sometime when your mommy dad say you can, you're going to go get your containers out of your freezer and you're going to open both lids and you're going to see what happened to the water and what happened to the maple syrup overnight in the freezer. And then guess what? Your mom and dad are going to be able to tell you the science behind why frogs don't freeze. And Miss Efferson's not going to tell you, or I'm not going to tell you what happened, because then you wouldn't get to see for yourself. So I hope you have so much fun with your science experiment, and I hope you get out and can find some tadpoles too. If you do, let me know. I'm going to be looking, and I'll sure let you know. Hope y'all have a great day.